Right, we've got some breaking news to bring you on the global tariff war that was launched by Donald Trump. Canada has just announced a series of retaliatory measures, including 25% tariffs on a variety of American goods. Here's the Canadian Finance Minister breaking it down.
Today, I am announcing that the Government of Canada, following a dollar-for-dollar approach, will be imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13th, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th.
Canadian officials are not mincing any words in their response to the Trump administration. Listen to this.
This is much more than about our economy. It is about the future of our country. Canadian sovereignty and identity are non-negotiable.
This needs to stop. This is hurtful for workers. This is hurtful for industry. This is hurtful for the competitiveness of North America. Canadian steel and aluminum are essential for North America.
The former U.S. ambassador to Canada and the former Michigan Governor James Blanchard is joining us right now here in the Situation Room. What's your reaction to what's going on? I mean, for me, as a kid growing up in Western New York, Buffalo, on the border with Canada, it's hard for me to believe that U.S.-Canadian relations are in a crisis like they are right now.
Yeah, it's really goofy stuff. It's totally unnecessary. Our relations with Canada today are the worst in modern history. And it's not just tariffs. It's the constant insults by the White House, calling it the 51st state. It's the Vice President saying that in the last few decades, Canada has treated us very badly. We've had this fabulous partnership and alliance all my life, and it's been seriously damaged these last month and a half, 2 months.
It's not just the tariffs, it's also the verbal statements. When you hear the president or the vice president refer to the Prime Minister of Canada, and you were the U.S. ambassador to Canada, as a governor, as if Canada is a 51st state, what do you think?
Well, it's an insult to Canada. Canadians find that as insulting as tariffs. The tariffs, of course, are totally unnecessary and are going to be inflationary and harmful. But yeah, I mean, to say you're 51st state is like saying you don't count. You're an appendage to us. No, everything they're doing it appears to be designed to destroy our fabulous relationship. I'm spending more time on Canadian television and radio telling the Canadians that the White House does not speak for 90% of Americans, that Canada is our most reliable, trusted, and best ally. It isn't just the economy and autos, I grew up in Detroit, or agriculture. It's cultural, it's relatives, it's tourism, it's everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
When you hear Trump say this isn't really a trade war that he's launched against Canada, it's a drug war that he's launched because of the illegal drugs pouring into the United States, he says, from Canada.
Yeah, fentanyl less than 1%. There probably are more drugs going north and guns going north. By the way, in terms of migrants, I think there are more people going north these days than south. This whole trade dispute is a manufactured dispute. It's made up, it's make-believe. We have a manufacturing surplus with Canada, by the way. We have an auto surplus with Canada. The only deficit we have with Canada is energy, and we want that energy. Canadian natural gas heats homes in Detroit. We have been energy self-sufficient, Wolf, since the first term of Barack Obama. Mr. Trump says we have an energy emergency. No, he may cause one. No, we're energy self-sufficient. It's growing. everything we do with Canada has been a positive relationship. We're gonna cut the ribbon on a new modern bridge in Detroit, the Gordie Howe International Bridge, next fall. That is going to be a celebration of our relationship, both families and tourism, agriculture, autos, manufacturing. We have an integrated economy with Canada, and we also have an integrated cultural relationship as well.
People don't necessarily appreciate, including people who live on the border with Canada, how much electrical power, for example, emerges from Canada into the United States and helps Americans. And in Michigan, in New York, and other states as well.
Oh, and New England, by the way. Quebec could shut down New England. Hydro-Quebec. Yeah, but you know, one thing too, people don't realize that Michigan is an agricultural state. We export billions and billions of dollars of agricultural products.
What kind of agricultural products?
Fruits and vegetables. They're grown principally all along our western shore. It's huge. And those products go to Canada, and they also go overseas. It's billions and billions. And we have, again, a trade surplus in agriculture with Canada. The other thing I want to mention is back when our auto companies were in trouble, you and I, we've dealt with this a few times. Right. But in 2009, when Barack Obama crammed down administrative bankruptcy for General Motors and Chrysler to help them stay alive during the financial crisis, Canada also contributed to that, both Ontario and the federal government. So they were there when we needed them. When 9/11 hit us, the first ambassador in NATO to call our ambassador was the Canadian ambassador. Say, what can we do to help? This is an alliance my entire life and yours. And we cannot let the White House, Mr. Trump, put it asunder. We just cannot allow it. And at some point, members of the Senate are going to have to stand up and say, enough is enough.
You think that's going to happen?
At some point, I think it will. But, you know, one of the problems is they're afraid to talk.
Oh, the Republicans.
Yeah. I mean, the Democrats are going to say that all day long, but they're in the minority. We are in the minority in the House and Senate. But you know what's interesting is when Mr. Trump gave his speech to Congress recently, he said, I brought back free speech, which is kind of a weird statement. There is no free speech with Republican senators right now. They're afraid to talk. They're afraid to talk and afraid to be honest about our relations with Canada or with Ukraine. Look at the cozying up to Putin. This is outrageous. I was with some German diplomats the other day, and they say, we just don't think we can ever rely on the word of the United States anymore. And our NATO allies, as you know, are gathering together to figure out how to deal with this new reality, which is kind of on again, off again politics. It's, you know, the Canadian people deserve better. The Ukrainians deserve better. Our allies in Europe deserve better. And so does Mexico. And our leaders in Congress are going to have to stand up for the right things, for our time-honored traditions that have preserved the peace all of my life and all of yours.
All of this is further straining the relationship, Jeff, between the Trump administration and Canada, right?
Well, if it absolutely is, I mean, obviously Canada, one of the strongest allies, one of the biggest trading partners, and the closest neighbor. And this has all just really rocked the relationship, even coming as Canada is in the verge of finding a new leader in and of itself. There has been, of course, a party election, but the prime minister's election later this year will, of course, just intensify all of this. But the underlying question here is the uncertainty that this back and forth, really day by day, has added to the markets, has added to business. I mean, keep in mind the free trade that is happening throughout North America, from Canada to the U.S. to Mexico. That is how automobile companies and others have operated, because, of course, that free trade agreement was signed back in the first Trump administration. Now the president is clearly using tariffs in a different way, and the threat of them as well. But Wolf, all of it is taking a toll on the president's view of how Americans view he's handling the economy. We have a new CNN poll out this morning that offers a very interesting window into this. Let's look at that right now. About 56% of Americans, as you can see right there on screen, disapprove of the president's handling of the economy. Of course, that is a broad question, but the fact of the markets have been in steep decline. There's still questions and concerns about high prices, as Vanessa was talking about. So this is as the trade war is intensifying, and we're nowhere near the end of it. The president's already saying there will be new reciprocal tariffs at the beginning of April, never mind the ones that seem to be imposed day by day with Canada. So the bottom line on all of this is the president's worst view, a snapshot of how Americans view he is doing on the economy, a 12-point underwater, if you will. And that certainly flies in the face of how he was elected, saying he would have fixed the economy on day one, bring down prices on day one. Americans clearly do not have a positive sense of the direction coming from this White House.